Hello and welcome back. I had a completely different video planned for this week, but I decided to change my mind and create this video instead. I think it's really important to produce content that is relevant and responds to what's happening in the world at the moment. The murder of George Floyd has ignited protests all over the world and has reminded us of the still deeply rooted inequalities for people whose skin color is not white. Like many people, I found myself left with many questions as well as frustrations at my fellow humans. The most pressing worry for me has been thinking about the world in which my own daughter will grow up in, and also preparing her to be part of the solution and not the problem. This made me reflect on my own childhood and background. When I grew up, we did not talk about race. I grew up in Romania in the 90s, in a country whose population is predominantly white. My upbringing had no conversations about diversity when it came to sexuality, gender, ethnicity, or race. It simply wasn't talked about, and that's the reality for most of my Romanian friends. However, it all changed in 2011 for me. I remember it so clearly. I was 18 when I came to study in the UK, and possibly the minute I landed in Sheffield, I realized how gigantic my ignorance was. There was so much I didn't know and that I needed to educate myself on. I was exposed to different conversations, debates, groups of people that really challenged my way of thinking and forced me to reshape and rethink about my own values that I want to shape my life around. Becoming a parent brings the need for clear morals into sharp focus. In fact, this is probably one of the toughest things about becoming a parent, is that in order to parent responsibly, I need to be really clear about what my morals and values are so that I can model them and instill them in my own child. Having a daughter put a spotlight on several issues that I want her to grow up knowing are important. From environmental issues, which is why we use reusable nappies, to raising her to be a sexually healthy child, as well as embracing diversity and love for all humans, hence soon to have conversations about race for her to become an informed, respectful and aware adult. This is important because, just as beautifully illustrated here by Danielle Koch, until you fix it in the heart and address it in the home, nothing changes in the world. So just because my childhood didn't have these kinds of conversations when I grew up, it doesn't mean that I shouldn't know better and do better. I actually think that a first step for us to do is to look at the research. What does the research say about how kids understand race? Research shows that actually a lot of work needs to be done in the early years of a child's life. Indeed, we are not born racist. So here's some information that I found thanks to the Conscious Kid account on Instagram, based on work from the Children's Community School. At birth, babies look equally at faces of all races. At 3 months, babies look more at faces that match the race of their caregivers. Children as young as 2 use race to reason about people's behaviors. By 30 months, that's 2.5 years, most children use race to choose playmates. Expressions of racial prejudices often peak at ages 4 and 5. Black and Latino children in research settings show no preference towards their own groups as compared to white children, who are more likely to be strongly biased in favor of whiteness. By kindergarten, children show many of the same racial attitudes held by adults in our culture. They have already learned to associate some groups with higher status than others. Explicit conversations with 5 and 7-year-olds about interracial friendship can dramatically improve their racial attitudes in as little as a single week. So as you can see, it's extra important that we work with our children from the very early years of their lives. So what can we actually do? As parents, we need to make a commitment to raise children that see, understand, and respect color, to raise them to live and be part of a kinder world. Here are some helpful guiding thoughts from the Mum Comics. Choose toys that include persons of different ethnicities and races. Expose them to different cultural backgrounds. Read books that are appropriate and help your children understand about different cultures. Start as early as possible. Talk about histories and personal experiences. These are all helpful, practical things that we can do with our children. But what about involving the whole family? What can we do as a family to be anti-racist? Here are some practical guiding thoughts from the Mummy Brain. Speak up when family members or friends make racist or stereotypical jokes. Teach our children to celebrate the differences of humanity by seeing color. Acknowledge our privilege and do a routine check of our biases. We all have them. Learn Black history. Listen when Black, Indigenous, and people of color share their lived experience. And finally, read books featuring diverse characters and authors. Which really brings to my final point of this video. I have compiled a list of children's books from my corner of the internet, from the different people that I follow, and I hope you find these useful. Here are some examples. Here's a list I've put together of children books that celebrate diversity in terms of race, sexuality, gender and ethnicity. I highly encourage you to check it out, and I'll be continuously updating it as I find more books. And I also found this great article on everymom.com, and I'll put the links in the description box. I want to simply end by saying that I am on my own journey. Like everyone, I have my own biases, and I need to acknowledge my privilege and do better. There is a long road ahead, and I can only be helpful if I continue to educate myself and be part of the solution. So here are a few books that I'm planning to read over the coming months. I really hope this video was helpful. All the links to everything I mentioned in terms of research, images that I used, and books that I mentioned are all in the description box below. I'd also love to hear from you if you have any other recommendations or resources that I could look into. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!